Summary of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. Throughout the course of modern history, there have been a number of instances in which ideas, goods, messages, and other behaviors have unexpectedly and rapidly gained a mass popularity. Some clothes become popular, crime rates drop at a rate that has never been seen before, and millions of new people join religious groups. A social plague is the name for this kind of thing. It's natural for most people to think that social diseases happen slowly over time. But a lot of changes in culture happen so quickly that it seems like they happen overnight. The point at which a social disease goes from being hard to spot to being seen by everyone is known as the tipping point. The goal of the book is to find out how social diseases start and whether they can be stopped. You can look at social diseases in 3 different ways: the people who start them, the thing that starts the epidemic, like the product, message, idea, or behavior that spreads, and the place where the epidemic happens. There are different rules or laws about epidemics that go with each way of thinking about a social disease. The law of the few is the first rule of epidemiology. There is always a small group of people with a lot of power during a social epidemic. Everyone is linked to everyone else through family, friends, jobs, hobbies, and other things. People who have a lot of links, on the other hand, are called connectors. Connectors know a lot of people, so when they hear something important, they'll probably tell a lot of other people about it. Another type of person that is important to social diseases is a maven. Mavens are important because they like to learn new things. A maven will tell other people about a great new product and why it's such a good deal anytime there is one. Many people will hear about the product if the maven tells a connector about it. This will help the product become a big trend. They are the third type of person that is important to social diseases. Salespeople are very good at getting people to change how they act. A salesman will probably get a lot of his friends to get in on a new trend if he finds out about it. When news of a trend spreads from mavens to connectors to salesmen, it will change the way many people act, which is when the trend reaches its tipping point. Another rule of social diseases is the idea of stickiness. It's important for people to share knowledge and talk about trends, but that's not enough. It's important that the idea, product, or message being spread is at least somewhat interesting, remembered, or addicting. In other words, it needs to be sticky. Ad companies often spend millions of dollars to find out what customers find sticky and what they don't. The TV show Sesame Street is a great example of something that sticks around. An unheard of amount of study was done by the show's makers to find out what interests young children. Kids were first interested in the shows before they tried to teach them about reading and math. Children liked TV shows that mixed fantasy and reality, which is why Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch are so popular. Later, kids' shows like Blue's Clues built on the study from Sesame Street by showing that kids like shows with strong stories and a lot of repeat. Both Sesame Street and Blue's Clues are very popular shows that have also taught millions of kids how to read and count. This shows that stickiness can be very helpful for TV viewers. The last rule to follow when trying to understand outbreaks is the concept of context. People naturally think that people act in certain ways because of their natural skills, personalities, or tendencies. On the other hand, people's actions are usually determined by their surroundings, or the places where they live and move around. The broken window hypothesis is a good example of how context and environment can change how people act. This hypothesis says that cities can lower major crime by stopping smaller crimes like graffiti and public urination. Gladwell says that the broken window hypothesis worked in New York City in the 1980s and 1990s. Police focused on fighting what seemed like small crimes, which made the city's surroundings, or context, safer overall. People in New York City had the same attitudes and skills before and after the broken window hypothesis was put into place. However, they were less likely to commit major crimes because the setting in their city did not support them. Group size is another important example of how important setting is. Scientists have found that groups with more than 150 people are less likely to work together and be close than groups with 150 people or less. In fact, the cooperativeness of a group changes a lot when the number of people in it grows from 145 to 185. Some companies, like Gore Associates, have been successful because they don't have more than 150 people working in their offices at once. So, Gore workers get to know each other well, work together, and aren't afraid to specialize in certain parts of the business. The 3 rules of social diseases can be used in a lot of different ways. Marketing and promotion are one possible use. People who were young and in the know loved a shoe called Airwalk in the 1990s. Airwalk was mostly successful because it knew what the latest trends and most popular ideas were and then used them in its commercials and ads. Therefore, Airwalk was able to reach a lot of connectors, mavens, and salesmen. These people were motivated by Airwalk's stickiness and told their friends about the product. Talking about social diseases could also be used to talk about the rising number of teens who smoke in the US, which is a lot like the rising number of teens who commit suicide in Micronesia. Teenage suicide or smoking is 2 behaviors that can stick around and spread even if they don't seem healthy or good. Studies show that a lot of teens who started smoking did so because they saw cool people smoking around them. To put it another way, the huge number of teens who smoke is partly caused by strong salespeople who get teens to smoke. To add to that, smoking is a sticky habit because it's naturally addicting. Therefore, if the government wants to lower the number of teens who smoke, should it try to make it less appealing to smoke or try to change salesmen to get teens not to smoke? Gladwell says that it would be very hard to change the power of salesmen because when adults try to stop teens from smoking, it often makes smoking seem forbidden and more appealing. Gladwell says that instead, the government should try to make smoking less addicting. This could be done by forcing tobacco companies to lower the amount of nicotine in their cigarettes or by treating depression, which can make teens more likely to become addicted to nicotine. The book comes to the conclusion that the world can change. In fact, because of the laws of social epidemics, the world is always tipping in different directions.
About the author. Malcolm Gladwell was born in England and lived in Canada as growing up. He went to the University of Toronto to study history. After that, he went to work in Indiana for the Right magazine The American Spectator. By the late 1980s, Gladwell had worked his way up and was now writing about business and science news for the Washington Post. He quickly realized that he was very good at making complicated information easy for regular people to understand. Gladwell has been writing for The New Yorker since 1996. After writing a piece for The New Yorker called The Tipping Point, which was the base for his first book, he became famous. Gladwell became a famous speaker for companies, think tanks, and universities after his book The Tipping Point came out in 2000. His other books are Outliers, 2008, and David and Goliath, 2013.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.